Well, thank you very much, Chair Murphy and Ranking Member Britt. I really appreciate both of your leadership on this committee and willingness to really go to work to make sure we get the job done and put a bill together here. And as Senator Collins and I have said repeatedly, we have a responsibility to work in a timely fashion to write a bipartisan funding bill that will keep our communities safe and our nation competitive on the stage. And we're counting on the work you're doing in this committee, so thank you. And as we work to live up to that, this committee hearing is part of the regular order that is really part of that crucial step to start this process off on the right foot and assess our nation's needs and remind everyone that military spending is critical. It is just one piece of the puzzle. Funding for this subcommittee is equally important, and we have to make sure that we are doing our job with that as well. Because frankly, our economy depends on our ability to make sure that countless goods and, well, people can move through our ports and borders in a safe, orderly, and timely fashion. And our security really depends on our ability to do all of this while effectively stopping threats like drug smugglers and sex and labor traffickers and a lot more. And this is especially important as we continue fighting the fentanyl epidemic. And we also have to stay vigilant against the growing threat of white supremacy and domestic terrorism and the rapidly evolving threat landscape when it comes to cybersecurity and our critical infrastructure. And last but not least, we have to maintain our reputation as the leader of the free world, as the land of opportunity, which requires us to continue our long tradition of welcoming people from across the world who are seeking safety from persecution and seeking opportunities for a better life. So make no mistake, it's not just our reputation as the home of the free that is made stronger by this. Throughout our history, immigrants have strengthened our nation. They've cared for our kids, our sick, our elderly. They put food on families' tables. They built cities. They built thriving businesses and vibrant communities, and that makes America, America. So I look forward to working with this committee to make sure we have strong investments, to make sure that we can build a strong future as well. So again, thank you for your work. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. I wanted to ask you, as we continue to see high numbers of refugees and asylum seekers fleeing persecution and targeted violence and the natural disasters that we're seeing around the world, we have to make sure that we treat unaccompanied children that arrive in the U.S. with the highest level of care. What is the department doing to prioritize forced labor investigations or labor exploitation investigations, particularly involving our children?
Senator Murray, thank you very much. We have dramatically changed the way in which we conduct enforcement operations at work sites. Rather than focusing our efforts exclusively on apprehending undocumented workers, we feel it is a law enforcement priority to focus our efforts on the employers who exploit those undocumented workers by reason of their vulnerability, that pay them substandard wages, that keep them working in substandard conditions, that hire and abuse children. And so our Homeland Security investigations special agents are focused on unscrupulous employers that not only protect the integrity of the workplace, but also protect the integrity of the marketplace, because these unscrupulous workers, by paying lower wages, create an uncompetitive landscape. So we are focused on addressing the employers who abuse these children and other vulnerable individuals.
Okay, can you also speak to what safeguards are in place to make sure that unaccompanied children are processed by CBP quickly and safely and transferred to ORR custody?
So we have, Senator, we have achieved greater processing efficiencies to ensure that we are able to transfer the unaccompanied children from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, from the Border Patrol stations that is no place for a child, to HHS, to Health and Human Services, within the 72-hour period that the law requires.
Okay, thank you. Senator Peters asked about domestic threats, and I want to echo his words and thank you for your response to him. Last year, I raised concerns about processing backlogs at USCIS. Those backlogs are still creating challenges for applicants who rely on USCIS services for everything from work authorization to humanitarian protection. How is the department using the funds it has already gotten to reduce and ultimately clear those backlogs?
So we are very focused. The problem that you identified, Senator, I am very well aware of, and Urjadu, our terrific Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, is very, very focused on it. As a matter of fact, this past year, we processed all the economic visas that were allotted, a remarkable achievement. We have an initiative, and I would be very pleased to follow up with you to provide the details with respect to backlog reduction. Let me, if I can, share with you why we are encountering a backlog, because the prior administration completely decimated that agency. That agency was on the brink of financial collapse. Every 2 years, it is required to issue a new fee structure to align its fees with the cost of administering the benefits that it is obligated to do. It has not issued a new fee structure in over 6 years. We now have a notice of proposed rulemaking to realign and adjust the fee structure as it needs to be, and that is going to help us tremendously, as is the fiscal year 24 President's budget in resourcing U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services.
Okay, and quickly, I know we've seen our community step up and fill in the gap in providing services to our asylum seekers. I'm glad the department is working quickly to stand up the new Shelter and Services Grant Program to support states, localities, and NGOs. But how are you communicating and coordinating with those NGOs as they support asylum seekers?
So we have built an architecture where we have a point of contact, a designated point of contact in the different cities and regions, so that in fact the municipalities that need the services can actually receive them in the time that they do. And so we're very focused on that. And in fact, I was just in Tucson, Arizona, speaking about this very issue with the community-based organizations in that region that receive the funding under the Shelter and Services predecessor, the Emergency Food and Shelter Program.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator